And we are live.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys see us and hear us? It's cold here, so that's why I'm wearing a jacket.
Okay.
But yeah, as soon as someone confirms that we are actually live and audible, we'll start. Let me just check. Yeah, we are live. 4 people are watching.
Okay.
And as soon as someone confirms, we are good to go. In the chat. Yeah. Welcome, Dan. Hey, Alberto. Hi. Thanks for confirming, everyone. You guys are live and audible. Awesome. Awesome. Hi, Aryan. So yeah, we are also planning an episode with Aryan. So he's from Go FR, Gopher, and probably on 13th of Jan we will also have an episode on that. Awesome. So yeah, today we have Anoop here. Welcome to the show, Anoop.
Yeah. Thanks, Hussein.
Yeah. So basically, uh, so we can start. Okay, 10 people watching. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So yeah, to start with, if this is first time you are here on my channel, this is Build with Hussain, where we build stuff live. Usually I build and then occasionally I am joined by one of the awesome open source engineers who also builds in public. So this particular episode is episode 2 of the Build with Hussain for FOSS series in collaboration with FOSS United. And today I am being joined by Anoop MD, who is basically the creator of Bruno. And he will tell you more about it and we'll grill him about it as well. But till then, yeah, and Anoop, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Anoop. I'm the creator of Bruno. I'm a software engineer by trade. I have 10 years of experience in the industry.
Hmm.
Yeah. And thank you, Hussein. This is my first time somebody has invited me to, do a YouTube live stream. So thank you
Many,
so
many
much for
more, man.
having me.
You are doing awesome work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so before we forget, so let's start like with where are you based out of and like which company do you work currently for and how did you start Bruno? Basically your story in short.
Okay. So I'm in Bangalore.
Mm-hmm.
I work for a company called as Better Place. Better Place is a CRM for frontline workforce management.
Mm-hmm.
So the story of Bruno is um, long back. Whenever anybody starts with an API client, they start with Postman, which is kind of the de facto tool today.
Mm-hmm.
So we started with Postman, and I had some issues with Postman. It was too slow, and it was too much of things in an API client.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for something very minimalist, and so I then went to Insomnia, which is another popular API client.
Mm-hmm.
And Insomnia was good; it was minimalist. But then I had this, and there was some things that I was not happy with Insomnia, but fine, it was good. But then I had this core problem where whenever I go to a new company or whenever I go to a new project,
Mm-hmm.
every time I have to know how to use the project. I have to reach out to somebody to get an API collection from them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And many times it has happened that in my previous company, there was a legacy project. And
Mm-hmm.
when I mean legacy, very old code.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knew how to send a request. We had to go to production,
Mm-hmm.
do an inspect on the network log and figure out what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, so this is an unsolved problem, and Postman and Insomnia allow team collaboration stuff. And So I started building Bruno as where a collaboration platform where you
Mm-hmm.
have both the client and the server both have to be open sourced, and companies can self host it. That was the I started building 2 years back. But
Mm-hmm.
as I built the platform, I had one day this idea that like for example, if I take this particular collection, the
Mm-hmm.
folders and your request, right? These can
Mm-hmm.
actually be mapped as files on your file system, and which means that there is no need for a server at all. It is just client. It's just like an editor, and I'll kind of show you in
Nice.
VS Code. For example, you have get users here, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this page 3.
Mm-hmm.
This is Bruno. Let me open that. So I'm going to go to add folder workspace, go to desktop, open this up, folder, and we have get user. So here it is 3. So I just made a change here 3. It is 3 here. Now I can make this 6 and save this, and it is 6 here. This kind of
Oh,
allows
that's
your
nice.
collection to, you
Mm-hmm.
know, be a part of your code repository itself. So when anybody in any company clones a repository, they have the collection to work with directly there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
Makes
not
sense.
possible with existing any other client, because when you export, for example, if I have to, let's say, export this collection, let's say that I want to export it as it's a Postman collection, right? I'm going to put it into Postman collection. I'm going to, let's say, put some here, and let's open this up. Go to desktop. Go to not desktop, go to Anoop, and here we should have requests. So this is a very small thing. That's why you're seeing this. But typically, if you take a large Postman collection, it's just one single big JSON, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that people don't put it into a code repository because you can never collaborate on it.
Mm-hmm.
So Bruno allows you to kind of like, if I have to look at a complex collection,
Mm-hmm.
it allows you to kind of each request is its own file, and the folders are exactly folders on your file system. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the core uh, thing that exists in Bruno that is not there in any other client out there.
Makes sense. So this is basically, as far as I can guess, so it was built on this philosophy. That's why it's like the files and folders are human readable kind of, and also uh, I think you have first-hand focused on it being version controlled, right? Through Git and not
Yes.
through something like a third-party server or something non-local, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there
Makes
is
sense.
also this aspect of co-location, which is
Mm-hmm.
very important.
Mm-hmm.
Co-location is things that are related should be in the same place.
Okay.
Kind of like if in the React world, what does co-location mean? That with the previous 5 years back, we used to have JS separately and we used to have HTML separately, right?
Mm-hmm.
React came and told that these are related, so it should be in a single component, and that component model has one today. That's basically co-location. Now,
Okay.
how is co-location in Bruno? The mapping is that your collection is nothing but a living documentation of how to use your API.
Mm-hmm.
It should be in the repository. It should not be in some other place. And this is many developers who want to save Postman collections in, let's say, Git, they actually create a separate Git repository where they maintain all the collections, right? And these
Mm-hmm.
are disconnected. And one person puts it there, and then
Mm-hmm.
the code base evolves, but the collection never evolves.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very important that we put the collection in the code repository because it is a living documentation
Makes
of it.
sense. So I have personally been using Bruno for I think more than a month now in live sessions as well as in the trainings. So you might know when I switched, like when Insomnia did some stuff and then I switched to it, and then I've been using that since then. I haven't used the version control thing yet. I just use it as a API, like quickly playing around with APIs, giving some values, even Frap API. So the REST API, whenever I teach REST API, I use Bruno to, okay, this is the URL, this you can so use. So I've been quite happy with it. So and one genuine use case recently, Nikhil Kothari, right? He is like the co-founder
Raven.
of the commit company Raven, yeah. So he used Bruno to basically build the documentation for Raven
Yeah,
API.
there's no,
So
you
you
can just,
probably will find that inside Raven repository itself. Yeah, that one.
so you have here API docs, I think.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
So like, for example, I'm going to do it live here. I'm just going to clone this repo and know how to do what. So I'm just going to do a copy this.
Yeah.
Let's go to the terminal. Oh, sorry. Let me just go to the terminal. So the terminal is here. Okay. So what
Yeah.
we're going to do is we're going
Can you
to
zoom in?
go.
Uh,
Yeah.
cool.
This
Thanks.
is better.
Yeah,
Okay.
much better.
So let's clone Raven, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, we have Raven, and let's assume that I got this up and running.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this in Bruno, right? So I'm going to click on open the collection, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
the folder. So here I have Raven, and I have API
Mm-hmm.
docs, and I open this, and
Mm-hmm.
great. So I have chat here. If I want to get channel numbers, and I have an environment
Mm-hmm.
dev. Let me go and see what they need. They likely need an API secret. I need to put the secret, and just like that, we never asked anybody where is a Postman collection. That question never happened.
Oh, you
And here,
clone the repository. You open like the that folder in, and I was like guessing. I just guessed before you cloned that maybe how would person change the site URL, right? Because site URL is different for different people. And now
yeah,
I think the environment thing solves that.
yeah,
So, okay, the as a creator of this whatever Bruno collection or whatever you call it, you just set the environment variables, right? And now the whoever is so suppose I clone this app, I can just open it up as you said and set the environment variables and it should start working. That's
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
Just yeah.
Pretty cool.
And this, the other thing is that so
Mm-hmm.
whenever I make a change, right? So let's
Mm-hmm.
see if there is any change that I want. So you have method rep revenates. Let's say that I make some change. There was some error, right? I can, for example, if I do any change,
Mm-hmm.
that change will be, for example, let's say that I'm going to create clone this, and let's say that get channel members of
Mm-hmm.
X. So I'm just going to clone that. So we have now, I want to, let's say, update this, right? So if I go to
Mm-hmm.
VS Code,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring up add folder to workspace. Um, Not here. So I go to Raven. Yeah, let me just go with Raven. So let's say that I'm building a new endpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I will automatically, update this collection so that now if I go to the diff and, I have a diff here. So this is a new thing. So whenever anybody reads this, it's readable. They know what we are trying to do here.
Mm-hmm.
And each request has it. So it's kind of like the same philosophy as, version controlling your code and the PR process. The same thing you can do with collections.
Nice. Makes sense. So this like unifies the so there's I have been through it. So what I basically do is whenever I'm creating a new API, right? Usually it's like wrapper.whitelist. You create a RPC call, and then I test it through console, and there is no what do you say documentation as such
Yeah.
for it. But since it is unified and as you test, you are also building the documentation, right? So maybe this can,
Yeah.
yeah, help with that.
Also, the other thing
And
is like
mhm,
when you, for example, when you're doing tutorial something, let's say that you're actually coding something, right?
mhm,
Some app that you're building,
mhm,
and you can put it inside it and commit it to Git
mhm,
and come back after 5 years and pull up that old project, right?
mhm,
You have it right there. Or even if somebody downloads the project, right, and they want to
mhm,
play with it, they can use it. So this is something that has not
mhm,
been done, and one of the reasons is that this takes away any monetization ability of collaboration, right? The existing
mhm,
tools, they use collaboration as a paid feature, right? With
mhm,
this, it goes away, and this is kind of like maybe a bit telling too much, going too far here, but it's the same transition as VCS. I mean, centralized version systems to Git, right?
mhm,
In 2005, we had centralized version systems. Everybody used SVN, Tortoise, all those things. Now we have decentralized it, and that paradigm shift is going to happen again.
mhm.
Uh, so we will have it may be Bruno, it may be something else, but we no longer will have in the next, I would say, at least a year at least. Maybe it might take 2-3 years, but I don't. We will move to file-based collections, API collections, and not use any kind of version control proprietary centralized version control to do it. It'll be through Git.
Makes sense.
That's the prediction.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, what are we building today? Because that is why we are here, right?
So what we're going to build is so there has been a lot of demand. Uh, I work for Better Place, and it's a day. I have a day job. It's hard to find time. So let's go and look at one of the issues. OAuth, right? So okay, so OAuth 2.0. There's a lot of 35 ports that people need this. Okay, so we're gonna build OAuth. I'm not gonna be able to build. OAuth has a lot of features, a lot of different grant types. We're going to pick something very simple and build a specific grant type, and I'll try to cover different parts of Bruno. Get into the architecture details of how that entire thing works. I think this should be a good example.
Makes sense.
So
So what's the first of all I would like to ask, like, what's the tech stack?
yeah, so Bruno, what you see here, if I go to the repository, let me go to VS Code. So here in our packages, you have the app is entirely in React, and we have Next.js on top of it. So it's basically Next.js and React, the front end, and we use Electron. And Electron is responsible for making the network calls. If you make the network call directly from the browser, you run into CORS issues and things. It's also very hard to implement scripting support entirely in browser. So Electron is we use Node APIs to kind of make a lot of Also, for example, reading, like Bruno is a file system based collection client, right? So you have to read and write directly to the file system. So we use Electron and Node to kind of do the writing and reading from the file
So
system.
it's like a native desktop app, right? Not a web app.
Not a web app. And I think people would take offense when we say it as native. Like I would say just the desktop app. When we say native, people would say, no, this is Electron. It's not native. So desktop app, Electron
Desktop.
desktop app. And I think it does get, people, some of them, do get a bit, okay, yet another Electron app. But Bruno is very minimalist, very fast. And the most popular editor on VS Code, this is on Electron, right? So, and the other thing is, developers care about whether something is an Electron, but the end users, who are again developers, don't, take, as long as it's fast, simple, clean, they're happy with it.
Yeah, just don't look behind the box, right? Okay. Whatever it is, if it works, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
I haven't noticed any performance or any glitches. We even use the Electron for the Frappebooks desktop app we have, like a stripped down version of ERP, basically the accounting module, and that
okay.
works fast as well.
Yeah.
No
Yeah, so
issues. Yeah.
I think the bad reputation for Electron is coming from other apps, especially I think Slack, Microsoft itself, Teams, and Postman. So these things just, they've too much bloatware and not bloatware, bloated and too heavy. Yeah, but you can build, pretty good fast apps using Electron. And there is recently, there is Tauri, which is Rust based, but
Yeah, I think the Hoopscotch team
yeah,
built
they use
their. Mhm.
the offline app using Tauri. But one of the things in Bruno is that there is a lot of file system based calls happening. So this is not possible. It's going to take immense effort to do it in Rust. So if we want to take Bruno today and put it into Tauri, we could technically do it in a day's time. Just what is Tauri? Tauri is basically a wrapper over. It uses the native web browser. There is a native instance of it. It uses that, so the executable is very slow. I'm sorry, very small. But anytime you want to do a lot more, right? File system calls or network calls, the complexity increases. And yeah, it's going to be I don't see us anytime trying to do this in Rust.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So other than that, we use Tailwind for our CSS styling. We use
Plus
tabular
one for
icon.
that. Tailwind.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't have a very strong opinion on how to, there is sometimes a war on whether everything should be in Tailwind, right? So if I have to look at any of our components, we try to use, or since mostly I'm the one who is right now, mostly leading this, and I wrote this for a long time. So anytime there is I try to use as much as I can, like for example, basic things, flex, cursor pointer, a bunch of things. But anytime I want to do a bit more complex, I do it with SE styling, right? So I feel it's totally fine. But sometimes, so since I'm leading this project and it's easier to kind of, it's okay with this pattern, but this can be implemented in teams because who decides what goes into, like what kind of styles you write here and what kind of styles you write here, right? So it becomes a concern, and many Tailwind classes end up being a lot more verbose. So I haven't tried to go all full Tailwind. I try to use as much as utility classes I can, and whenever I feel that it's getting a bit complicated or not readable, I would go with this. And so the way that I would look at the code is readability comes first, standards or everything is next. All that matters first is the readability of the code. If we start affecting readability, then we put it usually into a wrapper
Makes
component.
sense. Mm-hmm.
So shall we proceed to the?
Yeah. Let's start. Let's get to building. Hi, Martin. Welcome to the show. So I'm basically replying to chats.
Okay. Hey everyone on the stream. Thank you so much for joining.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm gonna have OAuth, right? So let me go. I have a simple OAuth server that I had set up, right? So in OAuth, there are many different grant types. The most commonly used grant type is authorization code, where let's say you go to GitHub, you get an authorization code, and there is client ID, client secret. So that's a bit fairly complex flow. I won't be building that. There is a much simpler flow, which is resource owner password credentials. Right? So resource owner password credential is basically where you can use OAuth, and let's say that you have a server, and that server is using OAuth, but it's you who is logging in. So you trust it. You're not sharing your password with somebody else. So let's say that you're building a SaaS app and you want your users to use OAuth, right? So ROPC, resource owner password credentials, that's the mode that is used. So we're going to use that mode to build it today. We're going to build that specific brand type. And first, I'll show you kind of like, let's say that today in Bruno, if you don't have, since we don't have OAuth, how do you actually use OAuth, right?
Okay.
So this basically has a login route. We have a set of dummy users, username one, user one, password one, and protected. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a collection here. So let's call this as API collection. And the name, I'll call this as PWH FOSS. What was the folder name? It was Bruno OAuth. Okay. So if you notice here, the location I'm going to choose within inside, let's go here. So this is the parent location. Inside this, the folder name is going to be different. The folder name is actually API collection. So this is something that people, when they see this modal, they'll be like, okay, what is happening? Because it's new. This is, in no other client has this. So your name is basically the name that you will see on the left side of the collection. The folder name is the actual folder name that gets created. So if I'm going to create this, and if I go here, I have an API collection folder. Right?
Okay, makes sense.
And the name of this is BWH, and that is the name that actually gets reflected here.
Okay.
Now,
That's the sidebar title, basically.
yes. So it allows you to have your sidebar title as your name of your service, but store your collection folder name, which is API-collection or anything else.
Makes sense.
We're going to make a simple login call first. Let's say I'm going to make localhost is to this is running on 4000, and I'm going to make login. This is a post call. I'm also going to access a protected resource. So in order to access this resource, we need to have the credential. So let me do protected. Okay, let me make sure that the server is up and running. Server's up. Let's actually try to access protected, and we're saying that token is not provided.
Okay.
So what we'll first do is we'll go to the login and we'll pass a username and password. We'll say username as user1. What was it called as?
I think username one.
User1, right? And password.
Oh, user one. Okay. Fine. User one and password one. Awesome.
So let's try to do 2. Make sure that the invalid credentials, we could make it 1. And okay, we have a token. Now, what I'm going to do is let's clean this up a little bit. So I'm just going to configure this, and I'm going to say that create, say call this local and local, and let's say that this is the base URL. So we have a base URL. So we have a base URL. I'm going to put the base URL to protected here too. And what we're going to do is we are going to set, like I'm going to copy this access token. And if I go here to my headers, pass the authorization header as say parrot token. This is a JWT token that we got. And now I have access to that. This is a protected resource. We have a 200. If I had not passed this, like if I disable this in the 500s, we get back a 401 saying that, token is not provided.
Cool. So yeah, generally like the basic OAuth flow, you first get a access token and then you make the actual request, right?
Yeah. And this is kind of the simplest of the flows, resource owner password credential. The authorization code grant flow is a bit more complex. But yeah, this is one of the
Yeah, that
simplest,
involves like setting
going
up.
to a server,
Yeah,
redirect URL.
clicking on redirect and then it redirects and with the code and then you authenticate with that code. Yeah.
So we have a base URL. So we have this working. Now, what is our goal? Our goal is that instead of passing something like this, we should be able to go to authentication and choose OAuth as a method.
Makes
and
sense.
choose a grant type and put the username and password and still make this work, right?
Okay, makes
now,
sense. So one less step. So it automatically gets the token and then makes the request, right?
No,
Is
it
that right?
wouldn't. It would, like, you wouldn't need to kind of specify the JSON body. It would. You have to still. This part can be automated. Like you can write a script where you can check if the token is expired. You can automatically make that call.
Okay.
But for the scope of this stream, instead of manually putting your username and password and creating a JSON body, you just get to put it, like, for example, say you have bear token. Sorry. Go to basic, you just put your username and password here, and then it would automatically put it into the JSON object and it would send it. And the more complex flows would involve different grant types, all from within the auth itself.
Makes sense.
So before we build this, I want to kind of share one other thing that people are worried when we want to commit to Git is that if I look at, for example, in my login request, I have a password here, right? So you don't want to commit your passwords into Git, right? So there are 2 ways to kind of go about it. So one thing you can do is, for example, if I go and let's say configure, I'm just going to say that this is a password, and I'm going to say that this password is password 1, right? And I'm going to save that, copy this password, go to my go to body here, have a password, and so we get the token back. Great. So we've moved it to an environment, but even environments in Bruno are saved inside the folder. So you have just moved the problem from there to here. Right? So what you can do in Bruno is you can actually go to local and uncheck this. Sorry, make it as a secret. and now save it. Now what happens is that Bruno actually saves it internally in the app's memory, but it never gets returned into your local.root. Instead, there is a vars.secret, and saying that this password is just a placeholder, meaning that when anybody clones this collection, like we saw in Raven, right? That this, if I go to Raven and if I, let's say, configure, so you see that API secret and there is no, so you have a placeholder there. So when you clone a fresh collection, how do you know that you should put API secret? That's because we store it like this in the file system, that you have a password there.
Makes sense.
And
so does it not have something like, okay, .env, right? Okay, it saves.
Yep,
Okay.
that's the second version where we could a more developer friendly version. So let me do that. So what I can do is I can say that typically you want something like this. You want to say process.env dot say password, right? This is what you want, and you don't want to put it as a secret. You just want to save it, but it needs to fetch it from your env, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to the API collection. At the root, I'm going to create an env file. I'm going to put password is equal to password1. And I'm also going to, because we won't commit .env, but we will commit an env.sample and say that your password. So this is another way that you could save it. And let's go to here, and it's already, so I didn't, so this is like an editor, right? I went and did some changes directly in VS Code, but it's already reflected here. It knows that it's password1, and now the login should still work. And if
Okay, that's why you call it like an API IDE and not an API client, right?
Yes, yeah, it's an, yeah.
Okay, now it makes sense. So everywhere in the description I've written it's an API client API because I use it as an API client, and then but it's like a complete IDE. Yeah.
The other thing about this is with this not there in any other clients is that when you look at if you look at the visual design, the right panel, what you see, this entire right panel, the title, the tabs are all for that collection. Meaning, if I switch to the Raven here, it's an entirely different pane. So I can do all my Raven related work here, and when I switch to here, it's an entirely different. So a collection in Bruno is like from the designs of it is to treat it as a repository, as a folder, right? And you get to operate and everything here. Like this is one of the things that's not in every other client. You have environments are separate. Your local. So in Postman or Insomnia, you create global environments and use them here. And when you share your collection, you actually share two files. You share the collection JSON and you share the environment JSON, right? And Bruno takes colocation to the next level. Colocation means, like when we're talking about this service, we're talking about the environments that belongs to the service, right? So like if I go to Raven, and so the Raven folks have dev, they can add prod. So it's very important that the environments are also, co-located within the collection.
Makes sense.
That's another design. In terms of global environment, there is, we will create global environments. There's been a ask for it, but so that the scope will be it will check the global. If not, it'll first it'll always give preference to the local before it goes and checks with the global environment.
Makes sense. So suppose you have 3 ravens and then like there is
Yeah, for any reason
global.
you want to keep it global, right? And yeah, there are requirements, and
Yeah,
also
so I will
because
give you one example. So basically, in Frappe, right, you can have multiple apps, but they all make like you can install all those 3 apps in the same site. So the site URL is same. So that can be global. Yeah,
yeah, you can have that. Yeah. Also,
makes
if you
sense.
let's say that you want to store some AWS secret key or something, and you really just want to have a global environment, so that's a valid use case. So we will support that in the future in Bruno global
Cool.
environment.
Yep. So where do we begin now?
Yeah. So let's go to auth. So first, let's work from the. I'm not sure whether we should go from like design the UI and then go to the underneath, or I would probably start from
Whatever
like.
you usually do.
Okay, so what I usually do is, so let's go with, so there's a package in Bruno, which is called as lang, right? So if I go to, for example, let's say V2, And let's look at some tests in V2. So let me look at some fixtures here. So basically you have a request.json here. And so this is the brew file, which is a readable version. So you have, for example, in auth basic, you have username and password, and you have a request.json, which is the JSON representation of it. So what happens in Bruno is when you read a file, it's actually the brew file that gets read, and then it gets converted to a request.json. And the entire rest of the app, Electron, React, everywhere else, it's a JSON is what is understood. No part of the code knows what .brew is. So first, what we need to do is support this additional authentication in the brew file, and then make sure that the conversion will happen in request.json, and we have it here, and then go from there.
Cool.
So let's, I'm gonna bring up my terminal here. So let's see, I'm gonna just maximize it a bit. Is this code font okay? Size? Okay,
Works.
cool.
And maybe the audience can tell if they want it adjusted.
Go to packages and Bruno lang, and let me see the package.json. So there is a test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a test node. Let me just go modules.bin just. Let's run the test. So, okay, all the tests passed. And if I want to make sure that a specific test, so this is on V2, source, V2, what am I missing? So in source, not in source, we have, let's say, tests.
Bruno Lang, I guess.
And let's say that I want to the index.spec.js. So it's basically saying that brew to JSON, it should pass the brew file properly, and then JSON to brew, the conversion. Because when we write back to the file system, we have to take the JSON representation of it and write it back. So we
As a
need
brew
to
file. Makes sense.
Yeah. So let's start from, I'm just going to do test-driven development here. So we're going to put, let's say, we want to do auth, and we want to support this new type called as OAuth2. And GitHub Copilot is saying me client ID, client secret, and a bunch of things. Yeah, these are needed, but I'm going to first start with, we want what is a grant, right? A grant type. So in our case, we want it to be resource owner. I don't think we need to put, you can put password credentials. That's the official name of it. And username John and password secret. So you're going to see me, like, I'm going to do less of coding and more of putting tabs.
That's fine. That's fine. So what are your thoughts on this basically? Does it like make you
My
more
thoughts is that
productive or
I feel a lot like 2x, 3x productive. And this
so do you
is,
follow Rishabh on Twitter?
yes, I follow him on Twitter. I know his opinion on, on AI. It's going to make it, so when you already are comfortable with the language and the JavaScript and everything, right? So it's really powerful. But I make sure that whenever I'm learning something new, I'm going to really disable Copilot and learn that new language or anything that I'm building new, right? Once I feel comfortable that, okay, I know enough of this, then I switch to Copilot. And I think Copilot is really good. It's a good timing for folks who have been programming for the last 6 to 15 years, right? Because they've gone through the grunt work of training their mind and understanding deep things. But it's very dangerous in the hands of a junior, somebody who's a fresher who's starting to learn something. If they use Copilot,
Yeah, makes sense. So basically, like if you know that, okay, so sometimes what happens, I'll give you an example. Copilot generates very inefficient code. I mean, like I have been through 2, 3 instances of it, but if you are a fresher, you will let it be, and then that's dangerous. And you won't even like look at it, and maybe later it comes back to bite you, but till then you haven't learned anything, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a very fine balance. Everybody has an opinion, but
yeah. So Rishabh writes in one of the tweets, using AI for thinking will make you lazy and stupid. So the keyword here is, I guess, thinking.
yeah.
So I guess if you are, yeah, it is grunt work, and suppose generating some, what do you say, uh, probably some example codes or test instances. It's like very good use case for this kind of stuff.
Yes. So it takes a lot of mundane work, right?
Yeah, mundane work. That's the right word for it. Yeah.
But you just
So
need to be careful. It's very dangerous. I would say.
yeah,
Uh,
to everything has like two, what do you say,
yeah. There's
sides
Bruno
of
and
the
the Cobra.
same coin. Yeah.
So we have O and OAuth 2, and our expectation is that if I go to
Hmm.
request.json, so let's see how so the representation should be, let's say it should be called as OAuth 2. And I expect Copilot. No, it's not helping me. So I'm just going to type grant type. Okay, that's good. This is going to be resource. Just going to use camel case here. Oh no, password current is great. You want it to be username, John, and password is, won't tell me the password, so I write password is secret. Okay, so let's see that if that was what we had here. Okay, so now let's run the test. It should fail. So it failed. What I'm going to do, so Bruno uses this beautiful library or called OAuth.js.
Hmm.
So OAuth.js is a library for building parsers, interpreters, and compilers. Let me go to their website. Um, oh, yeah, it's a JavaScript library for building parsers. So ideally, you want to parse this, right? There are
Hmm.
many ways to go about it. You can parse line by line. You can, or you can actually, if you're really
AST
good
or
at
something.
compiler, yeah, you create tokens and lexers and things, and that is another way.
Hmm.
OAuth is a project which allows you to kind of define a syntax for it and grammar for it, and then automatically it will take care of doing everything. So I'm going to go to our source code. So we want to first do brew to JSON. So what I'm going to go here is in the auth. Um, so we have auth here, digest auth. I'm just going to add one more type, which is going to be called as auth OAuth 2. And I'm saying that the authentications can be either of these. And I'm going to go, let's say, to auth digest 2. And so it's basically, I'm just going to put, yeah. So but basically, we're seeing that the authentication 2 is basically a dictionary. That's all
Hmm.
that it's defining. So let me just go and see if this works now. Let me run one test. Let me go to the test itself. Index.stack.js, it should parse the brew file and it should parse this. So I'm just going to comment this out. Let's just make one way work. First, we'll make sure that brew to JSON properly works.
Hmm.
Let's go to terminal. All right, so let's run this. So we're
Still
seeing
fails.
that there is OAuth 2. It's saying that what is error? Grant type resource password credentials. It's failing here. Okay, let me see. Go to the index.js file, brew to JSON. What I've done is I've set that OAuth2 as a dictionary. And should I do anything else? Okay, I also have to write this one and do the mapping here. So I'm just gonna have GitHub Copilot do it. Thank you. So you have OAuth2 underscore one dictionary mapping the pair. The token key. What's the hell token keys? No, not token. I want username. We got the username. I want the password.
So what is
We'll
this?
also,
What is this? This.
yeah, I'll
Uh,
explain.
okay.
Type key. So what's happening here is that when it takes the dictionary, so what has happened is it parses this and it creates into an object.
Mm.
And the piece of code that I'm writing here is to actually finally tell how to take parse this and put it back into the main. So all of this gets concatenated. So even if your file has multiple authentication methods defined,
Hmm.
you want to make sure that it should look something like this. Let me go to the request JSON. So you have auth. Inside that, you have OAuth to AWS, everything. So in om.js, this piece of code is responsible for taking that dictionary and giving it back
Makes
the
sense.
representation.
Okay, got it. So om.js has done it, but like it gives you back some representation, and you are what do you say, serializing it even further. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So here I'm returning this saying that I want it to be OAuth2 like this. The grant type should be grant type key, grant type value. So yeah, so grant type key. So it's what it's doing is that it's finding if a grant type, if this name exists grant type here, and if it
Mhm.
exists, it's actually giving the value or it's going to put a space. Same thing with username and password.
Okay.
So let's let me close this one here. Yeah. Okay. So it's still failing. It's saying that okay, I may have missed something else. Let me see. Auth digest, it's used here. And then I say it's defined here and it's defined here. Okay. OAuth2 is here. Okay, this is not, this should be OAuth2 because we are looking exactly for this pattern here. So it has to match that pattern. And we're saying that that pattern
So
is essentially
A should be small as well.
yes, you're right.
Okay.
So let's just do that. Okay, so
Ah,
we have
nice.
conversion properly working from here to here. Now let's just make the other way work. So I'm going to index. Um, uh, now I run the tests. It should fail. Let's go to JSON to brew.
Cool.
Okay, so we basically we get all the authentication. This is more easier. Parsing from taking that, reading that file and putting it into a JSON is more difficult.
Hmm.
Taking a JSON and putting it into a format is a lot more easier.
Yeah, because
So
JSON is like kind of standard language, and you know
yeah,
that object and keys. But
yeah. So
that brew is your custom
yeah.
grammar, right?
So we say that if auth is there and auth.oauth2 exists, then auth2 it takes care of indentation. I don't want access token. This is going to be grant type. Then we'll have not the username, the password, and that should be it. Right.
Cool. Basically, you are converting objects to strings.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's run the test. Now it's saying that
Oh, this is much
uh,
harder to parse.
source JSON to brew. I think we committed some syntax error. So we start. Okay, we have to close the if statement.
Cool.
Okay, so we have both the tests passing, which means that now our file can actually read if there is anything OAuth2 and if there is a grant type username and password,
Hmm.
it can convert it into a JSON. And if we have something, it can write it back.
Makes sense.
Now, what we'll
So
do
there
is
is a
we'll
question in the chat, if you can take it now. So
yeah,
not a question, it's like a comment. Recently, I'm trying to use Windmill. It seems a little the same to the Bruno. So have you heard
windmill.
of Windmill? Yeah, I've
No.
not heard of it.
Okay. It might be there are a lot
Mm,
of API clients. Might be in terms of maybe the look and feel, but would be surprised if they will be doing something on file system based stuff.
mhm.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
Windmill. We can take a quick look at that. Windmill
Yeah.
API client.
Yeah, I searched the exact same thing.
Uh,
Windmill. I can't find their UI. There are like libraries, but Windmill API Explorer, I guess that's the one.
Maybe.
No. Hmm.
So let's go back to our,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can go back, right?
Yeah, let's go back.
Okay. So we had login here, and what we wanted to do is we wanted to kind of represent this instead of writing it like this. We wanted it to be an auth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first, I'm going to go to Bruno, and not Bruno, let's go to our here our API collection, and I'm going to write. Let's go to the login part and body.json as well. I'm going to actually put up here. Let's say auth is basically OAuth 2,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll say the grant type is result owner password credentials, and username is user1. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to just not do this. I'm just going to right now just give it as password1. So what we need to next do is we need to somehow get it from the file to our application. Once you get it to
Okay.
the application, then you can start displaying things.
Makes sense.
So, all right. So this is the network. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is let me bring the editor to the side. So let's go to Bruno packages. We go to Bruno app source. We go to the components. Next, let's go to the request pane. In the request pane, we have auth
Mm-hmm.
index.js. So we have an item, and we need to represent that item. And if the auth is AWS v4, we have a separate component for it. So let's just first make sure that we are getting that item, or the proof format got converted properly to JSON, and it has arrived here. So I'm just going to console.log the item itself. So okay, so we have the item here. I'm going to maximize this a bit here. So
Does
we have
this
an item.
console come in the deployed build as well, or is it
Yeah.
for debug?
No, it will be. It's essentially a Chrome instance. So you
Okay.
can click on from here, click on DevTools,
Mm-hmm.
and it would open up this DevTools.
Makes sense.
So in this particular item that we're looking at, we have the request, and in that we have the auth, which is basic. Wait. Yeah, so I have to restart electron. So what I'm going to do is so I'm just going to run electron again. So I don't have hot reloading in electron. So anytime something changes, if I make some change in the electron code, I go and restart the app during development.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are here. Let's open this login, and we go to auth, and then we should get this. Okay, so we have the console there. Let's go to the request, and we have auth the mode as basic. Okay, so this is a problem. This should be OAuth 2. So we have to go to back to our lang. And okay, how did it become basic? It has OAuth 2, which is our everything that we want, but the mode got converted into basic. Okay, so let's go to
Does it
electron.
have something to do with the UI itself? In the UI, it is like it shows basic auth.
Let me see. Yes, this could be. It is stored as basic, and it's actually. Let me go to the auth here. We'll clean that. Let's go to here. Let's go to login. Yeah, the auth is basic. So I'm just gonna make this as. I'll remove it from here only. So I'll say the auth mode is actually none. And yeah, we need to do that. So we have no auth, and the new console log we would have the request auth as mode as none. So there is a part in electron where we need to update. So I go to Bruno, go to packages, go to electron source, and boom. So this is the only file in Electron that knows what is brew. In our entire source code, this is the only file. And this file is responsible for taking, brew file, put it to JSON and JSON to brew. And other files use these utilities. So let's see, we're doing brew to JSON v2. So what we need to do here is in the auth, it's trying to get JSON of auth, and it's gonna get HTTP auth. Okay, there is something we need to update in the language. So go here, go to v2, go to source. In brew to JSON, there should be something called HTTP. Okay, where is basic getting called? I'm thinking. Okay, so we need to specify the auth mode as there can be multiple auths for this request. I'm going to say that this is actually going to use auth2 in my brew file.
Okay.
Let me see what happens. So we have the mode as OAuth2, whatever we had specified here, the auth mode.
Okay.
Now what we need to do is we need to write a custom. Sorry for the, I went to lang, I searched electron, we didn't have to. Let's go to Bruno app, go to source, components, request pane, authentication, and here. So we are getting OAuth2 here. Now let's write a quick React component for it. I'm gonna pick digest, no, basic auth because it's pretty similar. So copy that. Let's go and paste it here. And I'm gonna rename this to OAuth2. Okay. Let's go here. Some things here. So let's say we say that this component is called as OAuth2. We will export that component as OAuth2. Now let's look at the components. So we are going to get the
Maybe make the capital and what? Yeah. Better.
Now we're going to get the current OAuth. So I'm going to say this is OAuth, or let's say this. And we're going to say that the request auth dot, we get it in OAuth2. So we just take that. So what this piece of code is doing is that it's basically getting from the item. If, like, for example, if you make some changes, it goes into a draft state. If not, it just gets the item. So we have OAuth2 here. And now we'll come to dispatch.
There is in feedback in the chat that light mode is kind of hurting guys. I don't know.
Okay, we can go to dark.
Let's go to the dark. GitHub dark.
I don't think I have. Just go to the basic dark mode.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, that's fine.
So we have a single line
Thanks,
editor,
Marcia.
and let's use OAuth. I'm going to just put here OAuth username, OAuth. So basically what we're doing is we're just rendering these blocks, the username and password, as we had written it on the file. First, we'll render them, and then we'll work towards somehow making a change and then putting it back to the file. So let's get the rendering first work. So we go back to auth, and we say that if let's import the component. So import OAuth2 from and then let's go and put the case. So if the case is OAuth2, then you return this thing and OAuth. Okay, let's go back to our file. And there we have it. We have the username or whatever we have now displayed it in the UI. Now what I'm going to do is we have this one still saying as no auth. So that's the auth mode selector. So we'll go to auth mode. Now index, yeah, so we'll add one more, which is If we need a divider now, I'm gonna copy, for example, let's say just this entire digest block and
So are you using something like Redux UI or something?
Redis UI. No, Radix. No, this is more entirely mostly
Pure
hand.
React.
Pure,
Okay.
yeah, pure React components. We would consider sometime in the future uh, to improve the user interface and make it a tad bit more elegant or beautiful. That's I would say a midterm plan for us to do that.
Cool.
So I'm saying that this mode is OAuth, and we need auth mode here and humanize auth mode. So there is another function called humanize auth mode, which is in collection. So there is another thing. A lot of some of our contributors wants this to be in TypeScript. I actually have not
What are your
really.
thoughts?
Um, I haven't worked a lot in TypeScript. I do get the importance of types and things, and it makes your code editing a breeze. And for example, if I have to go from, like I wanted to go here, right? It was a tad bit difficult. Like I'm going now manually to utils, figuring out utils collections and index.js. I also feel that JavaScript has its merits. Like we have a pretty stable code base, and we had a code like from September to what is it? September to December, we merged 250 pull requests. In the 2-year history
Nice.
of Bruno, uh, out of 300, 250 of them came in the last 2 months, and we still merged them, and the code works, and the platform is stable. Yes, things can break here and there, and it is frustrating, but uh, you can build good quality JavaScript code bases. But I think slowly, as Bruno is becoming more and more important, and we should considered. But I worry, it becomes it becomes less accessible to people who don't know TypeScript, and it adds a lot more types and makes the code a lot more verbose. Um, I haven't made up my mind. Uh, we should, it's a midterm goal to think about moving some parts of it to TypeScript.
Makes sense.
We want humanized request body mode, so we're going to say that so if the not the request body, we want the auth. So this is digest. I'm gonna say OAuth2 and have Git Copilot do it. All right. So OAuth 2.0. Great. Now let's go. Okay. Sometimes what happens is that there are cases where the hot reloading fails, and next year, for some reason, at that time, I just close the electron and reopen it. Okay. Let's go back here. Let's go to login. Let's go to auth. And great. So we automatically have it as it's recognizing that it's OAuth 2.0, and we have a username and password. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to write it back to the file system. Let's say that I want to make a change to here. And if I save it, it should go back and get written back to the file system. So let's go back to the auth mode. And so what is this? This is auth mode. We don't need auth mode. Let's go to this component. Let's go to OAuth, right? So here I had commented some lines. So whenever there is a handle username change, it's going to dispatch an event. And even when there is a password change, it's going to dispatch. So we use Redux. We use actually Redux Toolkit, which is a more opinionated version of Redux.
So less boilerplate, I'm assuming. So one thing I've heard about Redux is it has like a lot of boilerplate. I have personally not used it, but yeah.
Yeah, it has a lot of boilerplate and a lot of things. And for many projects, people should just use Redux Toolkit. And, it comes with an opinionated way of managing state. There are pros and cons, but yeah, it's something to consider.
So in like 1st of January, that's a spoiler now, but I'm starting a new project on Build with us, and that will be in React. So I have been doing like Vue.js projects for 2.5 years now. But first time we'll use something for a bigger React project. So let's see how it turns out. I was thinking of using something not Redux. I think Satori or something it's called. That's a state management library as well. I think what is it? BF.
And I think Redux is kind of like you have React query, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which does a lot of one of the things that I've seen with Redux. It works really well with Bruno because Bruno is just this one single screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no screen transitions to another page, login page, or some other pages. Everything is one. So it really fits Bruno well, where you have a single state
Mm-hmm.
and some slices, but I'm not sure how well it would scale.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Makes sense. Not Satori. Satori is I think like a SVG library. I'm not
You're
remembering.
talking likely about Zastan, maybe.
Just and yeah, found it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Maybe I'll try it out. Let's see. Redux toolkit, right?
so we have, let's say the password is here. So what we are doing is we are dispatching an action, and the action is update auth. So
Mm-hmm.
let's go to update auth. So I'm going to the components. Let's go to the providers, go to Redux store, go to slices, collections, and let's go to collections. We have update auth, so we need to add for OAuth here. So let's say case OAuth 2. So item mode remains same. OAuth, whatever payload that we get, we're gonna save it. And here in the payload, I'm going to add one more thing, that is the grant type.
Mm-hmm.
So for the sake of brevity of the demo, I won't be doing like putting a drop down. So usually in OAuth authentication, you need to have a drop down to choose multiple grant types.
Mm-hmm.
But for the sake, we will just allow the user to edit the username and password for
Makes sense.
in the scope of this demo.
Makes sense. You can like enhance it offline. But
So
yeah,
now,
I'm assuming some of this code will go in the actual code base, right?
yeah, definitely, we're gonna take this branch and work on top of it, and
Awesome.
hopefully release in a week's time. This.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay, so basically, we went and wrote it in the put it in the dispatcher. So that was the dispatcher. So here in action, so basically we put OAuth 2, and all right, let's see if this works and if you're able to. So Bruno is a fairly large scale project, so it would be very hard. Like people would be saying, okay, we are making changes here and there, but they would not be able to kind of what is it? Wrap it entirely in their head, and it would be very difficult to do it. But my intent with this demo is to pick something like this and walk through where are the different layers of
Mm-hmm.
changes that would be needed. Okay,
Yeah, makes
so let's
sense.
go to OAuth 2.
So this is like the second benefit of build in public, like this particular format that if contributors want to get a quick
Yeah.
glance of how, yeah, makes sense.
So I changed 12 and 14. So you have it's saying that there is a change. I'm going to save the change. Now we
Okay.
have unspecified keys in OAuth 2. So there is somewhere a validation that is being returned. It's in yep. Okay, so we have to make a change, and let me go to Bruno app. It's Bruno.js source, not in JS. Where did I write it? Schema. Okay, so in the schema, we go to index.js and we see that. Let's go and figure out where digest is written here. So you have the digest schema here. So we're gonna write one for OAuth 2. We say that OAuth schema, OAuth 2 schema.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you have a username, you can have a password, and let's say you have a grant type, and the grant type is one of client credentials, password. We'll just right now keep it simple. We'll just see this is keep the grant type from what we had here. We'll login.blue and okay, let's copy this grant type. I'm going to say that grant type is this, or it can be credentials. Okay, grant type is required on this, and the auth schema can be of this. And there should be one more place where the different kind of auth types.
It was there. Just
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
so let's say that the other auth type is, let's see, OAuth 2. That's required. Okay, so I'm just going to restart both. I'll just restart next two just to make sure that it picks up change in the library.
So let's see how many people we still have on the stream. Just for fun.
Sure.
Usually what do you say?
Drops off after some.
Yeah, after some time it's like, okay, now it is unbearable. I will watch it 2x later. Oh, still 9 people are there.
Okay,
Yeah, but
that's
mostly
cool.
watch it after the live stream, so that's okay. So those who are here, like just post an emoji or something in the chat. So we know that, okay, have not like put their computer on, what do you say, and then went away. Cool.
So I'm just going to put user 12 and 14 and let's click on save. Okay, now we have another field. Request.auth has unspecified keys. Okay, where is this coming from? It's coming from here, create validation error. Which file is this?
I think this is some yup internal,
Yeah,
probably.
request.auth has, okay, I went and, okay, what is the error? It's saying request.auth has unspecified keys called OAuth2. Okay, I did specify, where did I specify OAuth2? OAuth2, that's the schema. Okay, schema is not what is needed. So this is a problem with sometimes with Copilot, it will think something. So I'm just going to restart it again. Let me close this. I think I'll just restart next to be sure. I think we're looking, I think by another 20 minutes, we should be mostly what I wanted to cover. We should be able to complete that.
Yeah, works.
Okay. So let's go user 1, 2, and put 14. Let's say that. It still says request.auth has unspecified keys. Okay. Okay, let me just do one more and then we'll figure out where it's going on. So you have, again, the typo, capital small a. I think that has the culprit. Let me restart electron. I'll restart. Most likely, it wouldn't have to restart next, but I'm just going to be.
Yeah, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, otherwise, this bug is happening again and again. Right. So I bet 20 rupees that this will work. Let's see. Let's go to auth. Just going to make 2 and 4. Save that. Okay.
Yeah, it worked.
12 and 13. So let's go to
20 rupees is saved.
yeah. So whenever I have, it happens many times, and when I talk to people and there is a lot of bugs, and I get to a stage where I feel that, okay, this is going to work for sure. I'll put an outrageous claim that this will work. I got $1 million. And this has worked 99% of the times. But there was one time where it didn't work. And I'm like, that was just a what?
So now you have started betting like small amounts that you can pay, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's go and see in login.ro. Did we write? So we don't have it in login. Yeah, here you have user 12 and user 13, right? So I'm going to do one more test. I'm going to put something, click on save. It says request saved successfully, and that is here. Make this change here, user 1, password 1, go back, it changes. So we have successfully got, OAuth 2 to properly work. And for example, if I go to protected route, and if I turn, let's say, OAuth, and if I put, let's say, Anoop and secret, we should make, okay, grant type is required. bug, which we'll try not to solve in this session. This is likely because I need to, for example, what I need to
Have
do
one more
here.
input of
Yeah,
selecting
one
that.
more input box, and if I put that input there, that should work. So I'm just going to go back to OAuth and just save this. Okay, something happened. I'm just going to restart. So right now, all of this worked so far because I went and put the grant type here. But for a new request, if you put a drop down there, that should work. Okay. Now we have this. Now our goal is that we need to get rid of this, right? We're going to get rid of this, and there's going to be no JSON. It's going to be no body. And even in the JSON, there's going to be nothing. So let me try to do local and try to log in. And this needs to work because now I've specified that this is OAuth2. There is a drop down which says that this is resource owner password credential and username and password, and it should work. Now let's get this to work. So here is where, so what happens is Bruno makes this call, passes off to the electron layer, and electron actually makes the call. So I'm going to electron and I'm going to make some changes there. So in the electron, you have this folder called as IPC, which is interprocess communication. And Bruno, when it talks to electron, it talks basically for two things. One is basically it has to make some request and do some network activity. The second is it's going to do some file system activity. So everything that's related to the file system is in your collections.js, and anything related to the network, right, is here. So let's go to index.js. And here we should see, let's search for basic part of the file where authentication happens. Should be some prepare request file. Okay, so there is a file here. What it is doing is that it's checking if specific, depending on the auth mode, we use Axios to make that request, and we set up these things. So this should be straightforward. We say case, it's OAuth2, and we say OAuth2 and saying from the collection or not from the collection. Okay, so this part of code is at the collection level. So we have a collection level authentication. So I'm not going to touch this part of code. We'll go to the request level auth. So in the request auth, we want to put if the case is OAuth2, then and technically we don't need to say it as OAuth2. This should be straightforward. Okay, here we say that, let's put some code. If request dot, we're already at request dot auth dot mode. So we say, what is a grant type? Grant type is equal to get auth dot auth2 dot grant type, and if grant type equal to source owner password credentials, right? It just sets the auth. So when you say auth request auth, I think it automatically uses basic authentication, username and password. We can do this. I think Axios would automatically take care of it. Or we should also be able to kind of set the body. So we can set the body. Let's see. How do I set the body here? Axios request is this. Axios request set auth headers. Axios data, right? So we will overwrite the data. We'll say that
Okay, I was on mute for a bit. Now I'm back. Yeah. Okay.
So we have overwritten this. But I think this now should automatically it should automatically what it's going to do is when it sees that we have chosen in the login request it's OAuth2, it picks up the username and password and it automatically puts it into the body and it gets us a request.
Okay.
So let's try to see if that worked.
Okay, so the network part is in electron.
Yes, yeah. So I'm gonna pick local. We have a auth here. There is no body. Okay, body. I'm just gonna make it as none. Save that. No body, just the authentication here, and we're gonna make it, and we get the token back.
Nice.
Now, if we make 12, it should fail. Back to 1. Good work. Yeah.
No.
I think this might fail. Interpolation. I think it's interpolating successfully. It's taking up from our env file. But there should be some piece of code we have to add to make sure that we interpolate this in the code. I will not do that. Let's just right now do this. But I want to cover one more thing. So what we want to do is we want to set this access token into a dynamic variable. So here in headers, I manually hard-coded this, right? This token. So we can do it using 2 ways. You can easily do it using script. So in the post response, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say do.set variable, environment variable. Let's say that the variable I want to use is, let's say, better token or actually access token. And the value is going to be in the rest.body, we got access token here. So if I go to the icon here, the variables currently, there is no collection variables. So I'm going to, when I run this post response script will run. And if I go back to variables, I should see an access token here.
Nice.
This is one way to do it. Or you can also write a simple, go to vars and put a simple response variable. Let's say that foo, and I'm going to say that rest.body. You don't need to use scripting if you don't want to. The post response, you can set some variables from the response.
Okay. And where will they show up?
This will also kind of, it will just put it into a collection variable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Whatever
right
we
now,
were doing through script is basically happening directly from here.
Yeah. And then we could go here and say we had access token, and now that's getting populated. Now we have the protected resource. That works too.
Awesome.
Yeah. There's one more thing in Bruno that I'd like to talk about on here is you can technically do, like, you can install any npm package. So if I go to this collection here, Bruno Fast, right, and if I go to API collection, technically I can do this. For example, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this as, let's say, it's my library. Okay. And I'm going to write a new file. Let's say some kind of helpers.js, and I'm going to do, let's say const sum is equal to AB, and module.exports, we have sum.
Oh, there is a syntax error.
Sum is equal to.
Okay.
What we could do in Bruno is I can, like, I just wrote a lib here and a helpers.js here. I can go to script and I can, in my pre-request script or post-request script, I can, for example, invoke that. So I'm going to say const my helpers is equal to require from lib / helpers .js, and then let's say imports some. Okay, so I'm just going to console.log helpers.sum 1 2, 4. Let's see if this works. There may be some syntax errors, but let's see. Okay, we got 6 here, right?
Nice.
So I can actually, like, it's actually an editor now. Like, you can put a lib folder right now. You can install, for example, let's say that when I send my, I want to use faker.js. So let's say that let me go to editor itself. Um, I'm going to go to Bruno, and we have in this project here. We go to API collection. Here, I'm just going to init a simple package.json, and I'm going to do install, let's say, faker.js. How do I install faker.js? Okay, so we have here npm install -f. Okay, go here and sorry. Okay, so now I've installed faker.js, and in this thing, I'm going to create a function which is called as generate fake username. And we'll use, I think they've gone completely, we'll see if this works. Yes, modules. So const from faker, what we want is this. Okay, now, once we have fake username, then is it called internet.username? Yeah, it's called internet.username. So it gives us a username. I'm just going to copy that. That now, I'm not going to go to Bruno. I'm just going to do this in my here. So I'm going to login.drew, where we were writing a script here. So I'm just going to start. Not here. We were
Oh,
doing
even
it
the
in.
scripts are here. Okay, makes sense.
So now I'm going to write the code here. So I'm going to write console.log helpers dot generate username, and technically I can put it in a pre script. So I'm going to write say script pre-request script. You want to it, and let's say I'm going to rest dot set header foo, and we'll give the header as helpers dot let's go here, generate
Generate fake
fake username.
username.
Yeah, and let's see if this works. So I made a code change here. I'm back to Bruno here. Let's confirm in the protected route. If I go to script, that script is here. Not sure what that error is expected. Okay, maybe there's a, okay, save that. Okay, reference error res is not defined. So not res, we need to do it on the request. Okay, is that it? Okay, this is a protected. If I go to the header and the timeline, this is the response header. If I go to the timeline, foo is basically Mariam 78.
Nice.
Now,
So it's like next level automation now.
yeah, this is not possible in anything out there. So
Awesome.
yeah, so it's taking the API client, and when we say that, this is not a marketing gimmick, this is actually the truth. There's so many things in Bruno that we are actually reinventing it and thinking it from, and all of this is because of our local first approach, right? Because the moment you go local, and like you're thinking like a developer here, right? Your profile, the env file things, right? So your collection is no longer something that you share as JSONs. Your collection is becoming a project or something that you can, and technically you can still share things, export it as a JSON and share it. But the dream of Bruno is that every backend service will have a folder called API collection. And all of these things, people start collaborating on documenting their API collection via Git.
Awesome, makes sense.
I think that
Cool.
leads to the conclusion of what I want to do. Any audience has any questions? You have any questions? Anything before?
Audience, do you have any questions? Now's the time. So
Anything
yeah, why
about?
don't you like summarize your recent blog post? Recently you
Yes.
wrote a blog post, and I will be very much interested on how you got to the decisions you have made in that.
Yeah.
So first of all, can you share the blog post link? Maybe I'll post it in the
You can go to use
chat.
Bruno.
Use
.com.
bruno.com and blog. Where is the blog? Okay, here it is. The nav module. Bootstrapping. Yeah, it's called.
Yeah, so I've decided to kind of bootstrap Bruno. So yeah, it's been pretty crazy for the last 2 months. The project which we started it in 2 years back. Until September, very few people actually knew that something like this existed. Until September, almost for 1.8 years, and after that, it has just taken off. I'll show you, for example, if you go and search for Reddit, Postman, and Bruno. Okay, so we have some links. Let's open this link, and let's open this link. So what do you use of Insomnia or Postman? Why? Right? So I use Bruno. Right? So this is organic. I'm not promoting it. It's the community who is putting it. When people rant about why they don't like Postman, here you go, and you have 178 upvotes on that. So if you had told me in September that, and even the star history is just crazy. Like, let me go to star history and we'll pull up Bruno here. So we say use Bruno/Bruno. Okay, this is explaining what has happened. It's like a rocket going. Now it's kind of.
So what actually happened?
So
When did the needle move?
Postman actually, they stopped allowing local collections. They want everything in the cloud in April. So a lot of folks started moving to Insomnia. And actually, they are a duopoly in this API client. It's Postman or Insomnia. People who can't make peace with Postman and who, who are so
I guess
frustrated.
Insomnia is also open source, right? But
Yeah, it's the
open
client part
core
of it is
kind of.
open source. No, the client is open source.
Mm-hmm.
Their server-side implementation is entirely closed.
Okay.
So they do have that collaboration feature.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a duopoly. So in September 28th, Insomnia told that they are going to go entirely on cloud. And that was the final nail. That is when people were like, okay, both of these are no longer local first, or they don't allow us to maintain local collections. What else is out there, right? And that's when people saw Bruno. And in many ways, it's a blessing because it gave me 1.8 years to work on it, the architecture of it, keep everything ready. And the code base was so good that we could accept 250 contributions in just in the last
Okay.
2 months.
So
So
what kept you going for the 1.8 years, right? Because as far as I know, like from the start, it had almost very, very little traction, right? Compared to what it has right now.
it was mostly solving your own problem and
Scratching our own itch
scratching your own
is
itch,
what
yeah.
they
Like
call.
that,
Yeah.
without it, you would lose motivation. For me, I kept on it and I solved the problem that I had, and I kept pushing it. And there were bouts of times where I would not actually work on anything. Like if I go to my GitHub repo, some months I would either get busy too much with my day jobs here, but I used to keep working on it, and I really, and at a point, I stuck with it more than anything, also because I felt that something like this needs to exist in the world. Uh, this is what developers need, and it doesn't exist, and I want to bring that into the world. And the feedback has been very positive or very flattering. Like very rarely do you get a product. This is me a bit gloating or not gloating, but self boasting that your product gets to a stage where people say, "I love that. I love Bruno." Right? I've seen close to at least 10 comments across different areas where people literally say, "I love this." So it has definitely struck a chord, how we are doing it.
Makes
And it
sense.
got to now it has gotten to a stage where I honestly can't stop thinking about it in my head. There is so much more to build, and I can't do this anymore part time. And I also have, when I started this project, I also did want to see if there was a way to monetize it. Um, so I have some startup experience in the past. So I do have, motive here on the business side.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere along the way, I had lost that motive. I had written a blog even about that. There was this blog which I wrote in March called as SaaS Dilemma,
Mm-hmm.
where I was planning to build both cloud and the like basically replicating the Postman model. You have the client
Mm-hmm.
side, and for collaboration, you use a centralized server, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, as I developed the product for a year, I had one day, I just realized that I could actually put it into a file system and no longer have the server, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I had that, I had this dilemma for almost 7 days. Like, if I go this path, then there is no way of monetizing this because people pay for monetizing for cloud collaboration. Now,
Mm-hmm.
cloud is out. There is no collaboration needed. Everything is in Git. It's free. So what's the point of this? Very hard to monetize. But I
Mm-hmm.
felt that it was needed, and I chose to, okay, we're gonna keep like, because I felt that even if I went the cloud route, somebody else is gonna come up in the future with this idea, and this made sense. The local, saving everything locally.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, so I made that, and now since the project has grown, there are a possibility of monetizing it. So I have a
Mm-hmm.
pricing page, and I've been very, what is it? Very vocal and open about, like, the moment I saw the first signs of explosive growth,
Mm-hmm.
I wrote out kind of a vision statement. So if I go to discussions, if I go to, let's say, Bruno open source, so I wrote out a vision statement starting on October 1st. Like, the explosion began on September 28th. 3 days, and I started writing, saying to people that what my vision of it is, and I had explicitly mentioned that I would like to
Mm-hmm.
monetize the product because it's in the open source world. The moment you talk about monetization, it's kind of like a little bit of a taboo. Open source is seen as always free.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I wanted to make that very clear in the beginning, and then there has been VC funding. Massive like people inbound interest talking about, okay, where do I want to take it? And
Mm-hmm.
it is like, I would say that an API client itself is not VC. It's not VC material or VC scale.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to take, the path forward would have been to build a lot of ancillary products around it, and build more things.
Mm-hmm.
But an API client itself is not VC scale, and
So how you are thinking of monetizing it?
so we'll have pricing, the golden edition, where some files, for example, I was going to VS Code and doing some scripting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we will support a Brew file explorer, where inside Bruno you can actually navigate your file system directly. And if I want to commit, use Git, right? I have to go to
Mm-hmm.
VS Code and do a commit and push it from here. Or if I
Mm-hmm.
want to see the diff, I have to come to here. So we'll give a Git directly here. Then
Mm-hmm.
this is still in confuse. Like, I would like to move this back to free, but at least for some days, the plan is to keep, as we develop gRPC and WebSocket stuff, in paid
Mm-hmm.
edition. And another feature, loading data. So the goal is to kind of keep majority of the things for free,
Mm-hmm.
and
The
some
core
of them,
things. Mm-hmm.
yeah, not the. I would say, like, traditionally when cost is about core free and everything else paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bruno is not just core, most of it,
Most
90,
of it is
90,
free, but the brownie
some
stuff or whatever you call like um, extra stuff.
extra stuff, and some of them, like, we should be a bit careful about when you price it and when you give everything away for free, and the incentive to purchase an edition, golden edition, is very less.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is one model. Like, some of them, very little of them, we put it into paid,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this is actually a very fair, uh, a very
very
small
small
price.
price.
Also,
Also,
there
there
is
is
plans
plans
of
of
businesses using Bruno, and there's a possibility to charge slightly more if you're a business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so some of the businesses have reached out. They were
Mm-hmm.
like, they want to know Bruno, better, and what my plans are.
Mm-hmm.
So I see a strong path to monetize this. Maybe would not make millions, but can definitely build a good business, and a strong independent business um, can be built. And I think VC is, yeah, like, you don't need, like, always there is this charm about VC that that's the only way, right?
Mm-hmm.
It need not be. You can build a really good product and have a really good company, monetize it, but be independent. Uh, and sometimes for small projects like Bruno, it is going to be a big project, but when you take VC funding, you start hiring people. I don't, and in the history of the API client ecosystem, it has not worked.
Okay.
People you had Postman, Insomnia, Hopscotch, Paw, all like I'll show you the statistics here. So except Thunder Client, which is a VS Code extension, everybody is VC funded. Insomnia, which is acquired by Kong. Kong does a lot of things. But if I look
Mhm.
at Postman, Hopscotch, and HTTP, they just do an API client. Like I, this valuation is ridiculous to date. Um, so we need to do it different. We need, and I didn't want to repeat the same saga. And I truly care. And it has been, if I have to be honest, intoxicating, like directly working with the community and
Mhm.
having autonomy over the project direction, not having to, figure out how, like I took $1 million in investment and now I need to 10x it. I need to keep growing, growing, growing. Like this capitalistic mill, what do you call it? There's a hedonistic wheel, right? You have to keep growing, growing. And
Mhm.
I don't want to do that. I want to uh, keep it simple. The like if I have to summarize the business model, I
Mhm.
would go, let's say, to blog, bootstrapping. Yeah, just build and most maintain most features are open source. Most things a developer needs. Offer some features for business, and be transparent. Build a community, foster a thriving community, and keep Bruno. What we have is great. Let's um, let's not. I don't think VC is going to, like, if VC money would help Bruno become bigger, I would take VC money, but I don't think so. I don't think we need it anymore. We can build this together. uh, yeah, that's the reason why I didn't take VC money. And
Awesome.
also, like I mentioned, it's
It's
a
very,
rebellion.
very great to hear this, like a different, what do you say, viewpoint.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I've also been very influenced by Rishabh and Kailash and
Mhm.
Zerodha, the way that they run their businesses. And you see, like when you see Nathan Kamath speak, I'm not saying that we are going to reach that level, but when you see Nathan Kamath speak or when you see Kailash speak, right, they speak from a certain level of calm. When you see Rishabh speak, they come from they have a different philosophy or approach towards life, and I have, some of it has inspired me in the way that I'm taking Bruno.
Awesome, awesome. That's why you also went the fourth route, right? So it should be open, it
Yeah.
should be free.
Yeah.
Mhm. Awesome. Hi, Tosi. Welcome. Usually you are, I have a chat with you on Twitter, but now you are here. Yeah, even Anoop, I tried to meet him at India Force 3.0. Even gave a talk there, but somehow the timings didn't match, so we weren't able to meet. So when I went to his booth, he was not there. He was once, I don't know, like when you were at the booth, I was not there. So
Okay. Okay.
that happened. Cool. But yeah, finally we had an episode. So how did you find uh, the episode?
Yeah,
Did you
it was
enjoy
really
building
good.
life?
Yep, enjoy building life. It's the first time I'm doing it, and I hope even in people who didn't attend it live, it will be a good resource for people who want to contribute to Bruno.
Makes sense.
Uh,
Yeah. So at least start
I'm
using
glad that it
Bruno
went
and then.
well without any big
Mhm.
glitches. Because my wife was like, I always prepare last minute, and she called me yesterday like, "Anup, have you prepared for it?" It's like, yes, I have.
Yeah, so usually I even don't prepare for this stream. So this is like okay, tomorrow is what do you say, the stream, and today maybe I will have a look. Nowadays I haven't stopped looking at it at like
Okay.
so as I try to keep it as raw as possible. So that's why when I had a chat with you in the morning, I said, okay, we'll uh, let's discuss
Just keep
as
it simple.
little as possible, and then we can have like completely open in the stream. But yeah, that's the format I'm trying to go from here. But yeah, thanks for joining in. I don't think like there are any questions except for one job. Mayank asks, I don't think he's asking because there is no question mark, but web development versus data engineer, more job opening, more package, future. Okay,
Uh,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Not in scope
Web
of
seems to
this stream.
be out in the scope of this thing. The only thing is,
Mhm,
just do what you love. I think especially in India, we
mhm.
miss that. People get into engineering just because it's either engineering or doctor, right? And we have very few people
Usually.
who
Mhm.
get into it because they really love it. And yeah, so just do what you love. And yes, money is important, but yeah, just you figure out somehow to earn money from what you love. So doesn't like web development or data engineering is probably maybe a right question from financial standpoint, but that's a wrong question in the first place. What do you want to do? What do you find enjoying? What makes you excited?
Yeah,
Yeah,
makes sense. Like what makes you excited, right? So when you do something you love, you will do it good. You will do it
yeah,
the best as you can. But if you do something for just for the money, then there seems to be a trade-off that I have seen. That okay, you won't be as motivated for the quality as you can. Yeah,
mm.
then that should, seems to be a problem with. Okay, so that's a philosophical discussion.
Yeah. We should get into that.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, Kenneth says thanks, Anoop. Nice share, awesome. Uh, Thanks
Thanks.
for joining in, Kenneth. Martin, thanks for joining in. It was
Thanks everyone
awesome.
who made it this long.
Yeah,
Surprised.
yeah.
Hope there was some good takeaway from this. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you
I will
did
be
take away
conducting
something. Mhm.
monthly meetup, monthly community calls. Thinking of doing every first Wednesday, 5 o'clock in GMT, uh,
Awesome.
to interact
Mhm.
with Bruno community and get to know their issues, feedback, or anything.
So right now, what do you have any community group that people can
We have
join?
a Discord.
Mhm.
We have a Discord group. I think close to 300 people. I don't remember the number, but we have a decently active Discord
Mhm.
group.
Maybe you
So
can
I'm
share
yet.
that in the chat, or you can share it with me on Telegram, and I can post it on
Yeah,
the chat.
sure. I can do that after this, right?
No, so I have stopped your screen share, so you can do it, yeah,
Okay.
if you want. Yeah. Or you can share it later as well. So I'll put it in the description so it's permanent.
Sure.
Cool. Thanks, Anoop. Uh,
Thanks.
very.
Thanks, Hussein, for having me.
Mhm.
Uh,
It was good.
hope to
It was a
see.
good episode.
Yeah.
So hope we'll have some season two, right, of this thing
Yeah.
when Bruno
We
has
should probably
even.
do once there is a bigger update, or
Yeah, yeah. So
I would
if
love
you
to
want
do.
to do a launch kind of thing, we recently did it for Frappe HR Mobile, and it was uh, good, I guess. So that format of streams also we can try. So my hair is weird in this stream, but yeah, my
Sure.
green screen is acting weird today. So for the audience. So yeah, awesome. Thanks everyone for joining, spending time with us. Uh, so I'll see you on Wednesday with Dharmesh again for Let's Run ERP Next. And next week I'm being joined by Akash Hamirwasia. He's also a FOSS developer. He's a SDE at Razorpay. So he's also going to build live. So yeah, stay tuned. Till then, have a nice day. Uh, we'll see you and use Bruno.com, of course.